All
All right,
right,
Matt. Looks like you're
cool.
in a different place.
I am in
What
a
is
different
this?
place. This
What
is
is going
the
on?
this is the Cowper Inn, in lovely. I don't know if it counts as downtown. I don't know, maybe downtown Palo Alto, California.
Okay,
This is where Palo Alto is where Infra has our U.S. headquarters.
nice.
So we have an office here on Hamilton here in Palo Alto. So right off of University Drive, which is like the main University Drive Avenue. Anyway,
Okay,
off of University, it's kind of the main drag in Palo Alto near Stanford. And yeah, it's beautiful and it's a gorgeous day. A little bit on the warm side, yeah, but nice, but nice. I mean, it's
okay.
California, so it's warm. Um, and yeah, so it's a lovely room. Let's do a tour of the room.
You're doing a
Um,
tour. While you're
uh,
doing a tour, who else is in Palo Alto
that
that we know in the tech?
okay. Tour's
You know,
done.
yeah,
Tour's done.
that's it. That was the tour. I
Yeah,
like it.
that was
There's
the
a bed
tour.
and
Yeah,
a door.
bed door. Actually, the door is actually pretty interesting,
All right.
because let's take a look at the door. It is a sliding door. It slides
Oh,
open.
maximize the
Um,
space.
yeah, yeah. It's very interesting.
There you go.
Um, and yeah, that's it. That's the room.
So
And so
I do
that
wonder sometimes, like why people
yeah.
will pick a spot for their HQ and things like that. So I'm wondering
Mm.
if there's anyone else related to infra in Palo Alto. I think I know of a couple bigger companies in Palo Alto, but I could be wrong.
Well, I mean, I think the establishment of any office is just because, well, we got people there. I mean,
Yeah. Okay,
with
fair.
with Datadog. I mean, it was founded in New York because that's where
Hmm.
Olivia and Alexi were.
Right.
The sales office was in Boston because they hired a salesperson and he was in Boston.
Okay. Just
so
built up around
so
that
that
one
was,
person.
and then two of the core developers lost their visa, couldn't renew their visa, and went back to Paris. And hey, we got a Paris office. So
Interesting.
that was the forming of the three main Datadog offices, and for infra, um, the CTO for the company, former VA Linux and VMware and all sorts of other cool companies.
Oh wow,
Um,
I thought you misspoke for a second, but yeah, VA Linux is a while
VA
ago.
Linux,
Okay.
yeah. Apparently, he designed their like the ordering system. Basically, that when an order came in, it would automatically start the build process of your VA Linux machine.
Oh,
Um,
that's really
and
cool.
so it's pretty neat stuff. Way back
Yeah,
in like late '80s, maybe early '90s.
that's really neat.
Um, yeah, so yeah, some neat stuff there, and early on in at VMware. So he lives in Palo Alto, and so hey, that's where the office is going to be.
Right, fair enough.
And one of the guys who is based in Vancouver, BC, is just doing the move right now to Palo Alto. So
Gotcha.
um, yeah, and then the rest of the company is all based in Toronto,
Right.
and then there's me in Seattle.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
you're a floater. I can assume
I'm a
this is why you
floater.
travel so
Yeah,
much. Yeah,
yeah.
that's really neat.
So yeah. That and it's so I mean Palo Alto. It's a great place. I have you ever been to Palo Alto?
I haven't. I've heard it's pretty quiet. Is that correct?
It's yeah, and it's quieter than I remember it. So I lived. Let's see. I took my first real job after college. That would have been like 92, 93. I was working in New York City, and then for this analyst firm in New York, and I moved out to the West Coast to start our West Coast office. Um, and we were based in Mountain View, and I had an apartment, well, not really a house. I shared a house with four or five other guys in Sunnyvale, California. And if you want to know what it felt like, what it looked like, it's basically exactly the house that's in Silicon Valley.
Okay, I was
the
thinking
movie, the
microserfs,
series.
but they all kind of have the same sort of. Have you read microserfs?
Yeah, no, it's
Okay,
oh, uh, yeah, no, like what the TV show Silicon Valley, that felt like our house,
gotcha.
and
Just a standard
exactly,
house in
exactly.
like a.
Apart from the pool, they had a pool. We didn't have. I don't think we had. I never saw the backyard. I don't know, but uh, but yeah, and so I'd come into Palo Alto every now and then when you want to, like get a little upgrade in what it looks like. Sunnyvale is kind of boring,
Right.
and it was always lovely and busy and vibrant, and it feels a little bit more dead, not dead, but a little quieter now.
Okay.
But it could be that maybe I only came on weekends and I'm here during the week here
Right.
now, so it could be lots of reasons.
Yeah, I was looking at
But
like.
it's beautiful. It's a
I
beautiful
was thinking
place.
HP, right? Historically, HP has kind of been like the Palo Alto.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, HP. I mean, I think anything that came. I mean, all of Silicon Valley is. I mean, it's all right here. It's this
Right.
all along the main Camino Real kind of drag and the big highway, two big highways. Everything here is it's all pretty close, and it all kinds of comes out of. Oh, a lot of it comes out of Stanford, which is you go down University Ave to the university, which is Stanford University, and I think of all sorts of projects that came out of Stanford,
Right.
like I guess Sun was Stanford University Network, and or VMware was a Stanford University project, and then
Yeah,
the
right. That's what I was
professor
going to
left.
say.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I remember reading about it when it was first leaving Stanford. When I'd be reading my news on my Palm Pilot attached to a Ricochet modem, and usually reading it at the Tide House in Mountain View, which is a bar. And yeah, so
I
it's
spent
beautiful
enough
being
time in
back here.
Mountain View, but Mountain View is like it feels very small. It's for one thing, it's like
Yeah,
an industrial kind of. I don't know, like what do you call that? It's like one of those places out of town kind of things where you've got offices and stuff like that. So there's
yeah,
trees and quiet sidewalks and stuff like that, but just not a
yeah,
lot of restaurants. There were like
yeah,
4 bars, maybe 3 restaurants.
yeah,
There was like a Mexican restaurant, an Indian
yeah,
restaurant,
yeah,
surf and turf, that kind of thing,
yeah,
and that was basically it, kind of thing.
yeah. But I mean, if you went from what's the main road, Castro, I think.
Castro, I think. Yeah.
And then you go down it's been 20 years since I was there, so but go down to Camino Real, which I think was like the end. You had the
Okay.
train
Right.
tracks on one side of Castro, and then Camino Real I think on the other side. And
Okay.
at least when I was there was also like some big burger joint there, and there's a bunch of lively stuff on that road. um, and But then if you went the other way past the train tracks
Right.
towards Shoreline, I think it was, you had, at the time I was there, it was the big headquarters for Silicon Graphics,
Oh,
which
right.
has become, I think it got absorbed into Google, is all one of the Google buildings. But that was a super cool campus
I can imagine.
when
Yeah.
it was SGI. Um, and
Yeah, I have fond memories of SGI, but I never got to own one or anything like
No,
that.
I never
I
did.
still sometimes look at them on eBay, but they're very expensive,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah, yeah. What Octane is it? And
Yeah, yeah. Or the
yeah.
Indies, they just had a
Oh
really
yeah.
cool case. It's just molded
That
plastic in a different color,
yeah.
but
That purple and
yeah,
the purple colors and the green and the oh yeah, it's so cool.
yeah.
Um,
You can see kind of the beginnings of something like maybe an iMac or an eMac, I guess,
mhm.
or what have you. Coming out of that is like, hey, everybody likes
Yeah,
this but can't afford it.
yeah, yeah,
Maybe making computers in different colors would be interesting. Like
yeah.
we just bought a pink iMac. You can get
Mm,
a pink iMac
okay.
again. It's red on the back, but everything else is pink, and a pink
Yeah.
keyboard. But these newer iMacs come in just awesome colors that you'd never
Yeah.
imagine back in the beige days, or like
Yeah.
those gray computer days. It's just awesome
Yeah.
to have something that feels a little bit more personal. That
Yep.
is your device as opposed to something else, and it feels like it's maybe a little bit lost on.
Mhm.
Maybe the graphics card's a little bit more interesting than I assumed back then, but like lost on an office environment, just working on graphics
Yeah.
all day, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
what was it? Jurassic Park playing a starring role in Jurassic Park.
What's that? Oh.
I think SGI was in Jurassic Park, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That the
Yeah.
girl went to and said, "Unix, I know this."
Yes. Yeah. I can't think of. I mean, I'm trying to think of other movies that. I mean, SGI, or then there was the other one I remember in. I keep my screen keeps locking. I gotta stop. I gotta keep moving my mouse. Um, but the other computer I remember showing up in a bunch of movies, or around the time that I first moved here,
Mhm.
was the Cray computers
Oh, right,
showing
yeah.
up in like I feel like Sneakers. Did you ever see Sneakers?
I have. It was so long ago. I gotta rewatch it. I think I watched it in
Um,
like year 2000 or something like that, a long time ago.
like I think it's I want to say it was Robert Redford, Sidney Poitier, River Phoenix. Um,
I really can't remember. I'm sorry.
no, it's a fun. I think I'm thinking of the right movie. Great fun movie. Yeah,
I do remember really enjoying the movie. I think it
yeah,
was kind of a heist movie.
yeah. And the guy who played Gandhi was
Yes, it is a Cray. We found you a
yeah.
YouTube clip that confirms that it was a
Oh,
Cray
okay.
with the red lines now, the very
Yep,
stylish ones.
yep.
I'm
With the
sorry, I really
couch
can't
around
remember.
the bottom
I
of it.
don't
Yeah.
think it. That's what I was looking for. I don't think it had the couch, but that's
Oh,
what
it
I
did?
was
Okay.
thinking. Is when
Yeah.
Cray was kind of furniture.
Yeah. Furniture. You're right. Um,
That's what our
uh,
computers need.
yeah. Yeah. Oh,
I do pine for the days back when Unix was kind of a more popular operating system, and I'd trade it for Linux these days. That would be fine, but I do miss like that interesting hardware. So I had an HP
mm,
PA RISC. So I
right.
think PA stood for like Palo Alto RISC. I mean, it may
Mm,
have been something else.
okay.
I'm pretty sure that's what the PA was for. The PA RISC box, and I have one. It was kind of like a pizza box. It was mostly styrofoam, but they
Hmm.
looked different. They had like little kind of like racing lines on them and stuff. It just looked
Wow.
a lot different than you would get from a computer that you might find in a Best Buy these days, or
Right.
one of those, I don't know, Acer laptops or Asus
Right.
laptops. They're just not they don't have that same sort of panache, or I don't know, sort of.
Right.
It's like retro future, I guess, is what I'm trying to describe. Like things that
Mm-hmm.
they think it looks advanced, but it's also it's a while ago, so it doesn't look that advanced now, but it's
Right.
kind of quaint, and that it still looks cool, but for a different reason.
Yep.
But yeah, we need like a Linux server rack that comes with like a couch attached to it. I would have that, like that would
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
acceptable. I could attach
That
right to
would be
this couch
great.
in my living room. As someone who just got a new couch, like if that came with a Cray, I would have been sold. This would
Oh
not.
yeah.
It took about 2 weeks for us to decide on the couch, but if it had a Cray attached, that would have been game over. This is obviously the couch. We ended up buying this modular thing that, like, because of course we're nerds. Anything that we can rearrange, because like maybe then we'll
Right.
expand or contract or what have you. But if it had a computer attached, or like even underneath it, I'd be cool with that. No
Yeah.
problem. We're in.
um, yeah. I can't think of like furniture associated with hardware. I
Wasn't there an
yeah. When
IBM? They called it a mini computer, but I think there was an IBM that also had, because the Cray had like the circular thing around it. I think there was an
right. Yeah.
IBM that had like the secretaries, the data processors could
Right.
actually go in and sit down and use them.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah.
Did
But
you
man,
ever
I
use
guess
any like Sparks or anything? Like those were some of those are
at
pretty cool.
school we had
Okay.
Sparks, and I feel like at school because I had a class that was in the Supercomputer Research Center at Florida State.
Nice.
And so it was like a super fancy building. You go inside, it's kind of darkish. And there was this row of RS-6000s that would often be on. And these things had like massive monitors. They were gorgeous to look at and
Yeah.
awesome to be able to play with. That was in like I don't know, I feel like it was like a intro to operating systems, or some other class like that I did.
Nice.
Or actually, it might have been an intro to artificial intelligence programming that I was in back then. And yeah, so a lot of RS-6000s, but also some VAX VMS machines, which had
Oh,
probably
nice.
the best mouse that I ever have used. With kind of like
Yeah.
it's like a it's kind of almost like a semi globe. That it's just a full round thing that you rested your hand on. It was the most comfortable mouse possible. Oh, I loved it. Um, And what else?
I'm not finding the mouse, but there are some mice for the Vax that look.
Yeah,
I guess they're DEC mice. That's why I'll keep looking.
yeah. But but then Sparks, I feel like I used somewhere else. Oh, I guess in that analyst firm, we had a Spark there because Sun was a customer, and I think we were given one.
Gotcha.
Um,
I at one point in time I used to buy them in bulk and kind of resell them. I'm not sure if I've told that story on the show before, but
no.
we would buy crates of them or
Mm,
pallets of them actually off of. I'm pretty sure it was Nortel in Canada was getting rid of their Sun Solaris boxes, and as they did, we would buy them all. And I think we
mhm.
paid for them by weight, which is amazing because they really it was like disposal basically. So they were getting rid
Right.
of them, and as long as we could accept the freight, we were
Yeah.
good to go kind of thing. And we used to put them on the like a flatbed truck that was not
Yeah.
suited for carrying pellets, but they would just fit like a 1 ton
Yeah.
truck, like not a good idea. And we would sell the thing that we would sell to use that would make the most money is actually those drive kind of holders or caddies, I guess, or
Uh-huh.
spud brackets in the Sun world
Okay.
on eBay back in the day, taking photos of these
Wow.
things on like a Sony digital Mavica that took a floppy.
Right.
So we had like a little sneaker net kind of moving the data back and forth to a computer. And I would take photos of each computer as it came in. And that's
Right.
how I learned Linux actually was to like, because we didn't have a
Okay.
copy of Solaris because they didn't ship with
Right.
an OS. So we'd have to make sure that the hard drives worked, the software worked,
Right.
that kind of stuff. And I'm pretty sure it was Debian Potato that I was using at the time. So we're really traveling down memory lane here today. But like honestly, my career has like a lot of what I do these days, like
Yeah.
trying to play with weird operating systems and unknown
Yeah.
things and being comfortable with failure is like,
Right.
I learned it by getting just pallets of broken machines and trying to figure out what we
Mhm.
could salvage from them, and then coming up with business ideas and
Yeah.
reducing toil and all the lean and CAM stuff. But it's kind of rough when you're dealing with actual hardware. It's way
Yeah.
different than when you're dealing in the cloud. It's just a lot easier. It's kind of fun.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you remember? Do you think there's any good computer manufacturers that are making fun-looking devices today?
I do. I have opinions. I wonder if
Yeah.
you do though.
I feel like, I mean, I wanted to say I do, and then I saw one of them. I was like, oh, that doesn't look as anywhere near as good as I had thought. And that was System 76.
Okay, yeah. I mean,
Um,
they're on the list. They wouldn't be like
yeah.
top three, but yeah, they're certainly on
Yeah.
the list for me. I think the
Yeah.
Thelios, for example, the smaller one that kind of
Yeah.
has like the wood veneer
Well,
on it,
like
for
the desktop
example.
machines. Yeah. Their
Yeah,
desktop machines look great. Their
laptops I think
laptops
are the
are just,
Eurocom, right? Is
yeah.
who they're rebadging right now, which again,
Is it?
neither here nor
Okay.
there. It's just a little bit not the best
Yeah.
design, I don't think. But I would really like to see Helios,
Yeah.
sorry, in person. I like that veneer. I was actually
Yeah.
thinking, so for me, the first computer I ever bought was from Voodoo Systems, a Canadian
Hmm.
company. They got bought by HP as kind of a
Okay.
response to Alienware, who I think are maybe
Okay.
like my top pick right now. And I'm not going
Yeah.
to come out with a glowing review of Alienware saying that they're the best systems. However, they do look different. And if you put one in your
Yeah.
living room, someone would ask you about it. That kind
Yeah.
of thing. So I'd say Alienware and Voodoo still is making systems that look okay.
Okay.
So I'd say there would be that's under the HP kind of badging, but it's HP's Voodoo machines. I think those would be the first two, and then there's some online retailers that you can get stuff from
Hmm.
that have some interesting cases. There are some different manufacturers out there still getting
Yeah.
custom cases to build their PCs, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of the names. I'll find some names here for the notes in
Yeah.
the chat. I
The
think
one
those are
case,
cool.
the case I always remember as
Mhm.
being so amazingly different, and that I never could get. And then by the time I, wanted to get one, I think they were out of business or they got acquired or something. And that was, I think the company was called the Panda Project.
Okay.
Um, and they had some amazing cases. But as I said, I feel like they got acquired by some other company and got absorbed. But now I can't, yeah. But I mean, they're all the cases now are just the same box, maybe with a little bit of trim on it. Like the System 76, I feel like it's the same box with just like a wood grill instead of or something like that. I don't know.
I'm not sure if these are. There's Panda Gaming, which I think is something else, but there is like
Something else.
There is certainly a pink case that has OMG cut out with like filters on top of it. That looks pretty cool. I'm not sure if this is related at all, but again, similar to like the red iMac that is pink on the front, I do feel like there's finally some pink computers. And listen, I understand that not all people want pink, but for
Right.
the people who do like pink, I think that it's awesome that we have pink computers or purple computers or what have you, like a color that they like. Because a lot of people really don't like the silver or the black, the kind of monolith looking computer. Even though that's my aesthetic. That's what I pick every
Right.
time. It's like just a block. I think I watched 2001 a few too many times, but I'm all about the monolith computer case.
Yeah, I'm looking around for Panda Project PC cases. I'm not finding anything. I see the one that you said about OMG, but that's definitely not it.
It's fairly modern, yeah.
But one that looks fairly similar looks like it's an Alienware Area 51, had kind of a similar kind of rounded front,
right?
But yeah, I don't know. It was,
yeah, I know that case very well. That's a pretty cool case. Like when you walk into a Staples or whatever, where I normally see it, or a Best Buy, where I see it on display, like it catches your eye. And it's got like the glowing alien eyes and stuff like that too. Like there's a bit added to this that makes it pretty cool. The case that I liked the most when I was younger is called the HP Kayak, and I felt like it was kind of I don't know, maybe they were fighting against Apple for like modular repairable systems, but it was really a good design in that it was toolless. You could just slide off the top of the case, bring it out on a hinge, and like everything would like clamp in and sit in. There were like rubber grommets and stuff that made sure things didn't vibrate. So it was quite quiet. It was also very cheap, and it was made to be like a system just deployed to like a fleet of users in an office kind of thing. And no one ever talks about it, but it's just one of those things that I probably from Nortel that I had seen a lot of and really became to like appreciate this case design.
Yeah.
Just trying to tie in HP here in Palo Alto, but I really did feel like that kind of case engineering at the time, this is like early 2000s, was pretty forward thinking. Not just in those like looks on the front, it was pretty unassuming, but inside making it very easy to go in and repair it. As one of those things that we even struggle with today, like making a computer repairable. That's one of the things I will say about like the System 76 Eurocom computer. Somewhat comparable, right? Compared to your average Apple laptop, unfortunately, not so much. And I get that they're optimizing for different things. One is, how can I put a lot of power in a portable workstation? Whereas the other is, how can I make this as small and light as possible while at the same time increasing battery life, which is kind of like two goals that fight against each other.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess like for Apple hardware, I mean, it's very not user serviceable. And I mean, like at least the laptops, but the other thing that comes into play there is security and just making sure your data is secure, and somebody's not going to be able to take the drive out and put it in a different machine and take advantage, because it's going to be locked because of the whole secure enclave and all of that. And I actually did see a video pretty recently just about somebody who is upgrading the SSD in a MacBook, I think, and how to do that. But it requires like replacing NAND chips and soldering and like really hard stuff.
Yeah, I would assume the controller for the disk drive would also need to be replaced because it doesn't know to map more memory. Yeah, okay.
Right. And then also requires having another Mac to actually get the OS off of. And so you kind of have to tether. It was really interesting.
Like target disk mode or what have you.
Yeah, essentially,
That's really cool. I do feel like, so even when they were repairable, like I'm not sure if I mentioned this on the podcast before either, but I used to be a certified Apple repair technician, and I would repair like a fair amount of the lines. From the G4, G5 series all the way up to Intel was kind of when I worked on it, like let's say 2005 to 2007.
Right.
It was a pretty narrow period of time, but a pretty wide spectrum of stuff that we would repair. And the Intel laptops, when they came out, were quite a bit more repairable. Like the Intel MacBook, the first one that came out, was way more repairable than the PowerBooks that came before it. But again, as they progressed and started to get smaller and things like that, the worse it got. And I think the absolute worst was the PowerBook G4 that had, and I'm not exaggerating, I felt like it was 60 different types of screws. So normally you could use like an egg carton to separate your screws out when repairing a Mac. That kind of works. For that
Right.
one, I believe you had to use 3. And you would use them in order. So like you go top left to bottom right kind of thing. When you repaired it, you could, or put it back together, you go bottom right to top
Yeah.
left. So just know like these screws go here, and you just go like, yeah, you remember how it goes together, that kind of thing. And the manual to repair it, you could get from GSX, which is like the Apple kind of repair place that I guess people have access to now, that you can repair your own stuff. But it was ridiculous. Even if you gave this to someone on the street and said, hey, you can repair this, they'd be like, this is a 7-hour job. Like I could
Yeah.
repair this, but I don't want to because it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I feel like when I'm looking at my phone, that's basically the same thing that they're at. Like for me to repair my cell phone, which I think of as a computer these days, would be quite difficult. There's a lot of stuff that would go into repairing it. Might be a lot of screws, but there's a lot of like glue and like double-sided tape and stuff like that that goes into this. There's Kapton tape everywhere. It's just a whole thing these days.
It's like I was watching. I had a flight, so anytime I'm about to get on a plane, I open up the YouTube app on my phone and download video, so I can watch it offline. Which I think is only a feature if you actually pay YouTube for the monthly to get rid of ads. Which I can't imagine watching ads on YouTube, so it's totally worth it. So I downloaded a whole bunch of things, and one of the ones I watched was where it's somebody I've seen so many times. It was one of these Mac channels where he took apart the keyboard with the Touch ID to pull the Touch ID sensor out to be a separate, because he didn't really care about the keyboard. So
like
he dumped the
Rossman
keyboard.
Or something, was it?
Huh?
Wasn't Lewis Rossman? He's
no.
Sorry,
but to
regardless.
basically create his own little remote thumb fingerprint reader, Touch ID sensor.
Cool.
But it looked like it was a whole lot of work because the keyboard, you take the rubber feet off and there's no screw there, so it's basically glue. So he had a big hot pad that he puts the whole keyboard on and then wrench that thing apart. And then how do you, and then depending on the keyboard you get and the model, the board that actually controls it. It could be like really short or really long, and and there's all sorts of like there's an RF sensor in there, and all sorts of other things in there. So it's a pretty neat idea.
Trying to look. I recently, like, I'm actually a bit of a converted fan into, like, I love mechanical keyboards, don't get me wrong, but I really have been enjoying the newer Mac keyboards, and like I've got a few of them just in my drawer. I tend to collect them. But I really do like them, and that was the thing that really worried me, is that like they're not repairable. So I've got a few more, just backups basically, because I feel like I just can't repair them, and I've broken a couple now. That the scissor mechanism, sometimes I don't know if I drop it on the floor or what have you, it can get broken. But I do worry about repairability, especially when it comes to a device that you really like. And I used to have like the Microsoft trackball, for example, which is not like. Sorry, there's someone having an episode outside. The trackball, for example, it's somewhat repairable, but it's really hard to get a replacement these days, like up to $300. So I just ended up buying a few and keeping them for parts. But I do worry about that as well when it comes to something that you like. What do? Reverse engineer it, 3D print parts? Like that's kind of the era that we're in now, where we have to self-repair by essentially manufacturing some of these pieces, because they're like foreign molded plastic that you can't, or injection molded plastic that you can't just make on your own without doing like actual engineering work, which is good, but also it'd be better if it was like kind of swappable.
Is that a cat in the background, or what is that noise?
That is a person.
It's a person.
That's a person, unfortunately. I live in an area of Vancouver that has like a lot of social projects, and one of them next to me is a safe injection site. And sometimes
I thought it was a cat.
Yeah, I'm not passing any judgment here. It's something we're trying in Vancouver. It's just that sometimes we have people screaming walking down the street.
Interesting.
Yeah, that'd be a very loud cat. I guess, the proximity to the window, like the window's 3 meters away that way. I feel like maybe 2 meters. So yeah, it's quite loud.
Wow. So Drifter, our favorite commenter. Dank pods. I don't know what Dank pods is.
AirPods.
It's a YouTuber.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Jeez, that's a good call. All right. Not bad.
Cool.
Yeah, I actually think I'd agree. Thank you very much for the tip. I think this classic repair, the
Hmm.
iPod, sorry, classic repair is definitely
Right.
way up my alley because I really
Yeah.
do like the classic iPod. Being able to rate things from 1 to 5 in my pocket basically as I walk
Right.
was like massive thing. Just getting a whole
Yeah.
bunch of new music and then just rating them was something
Right.
I really enjoyed and missed. It's really
Yeah.
cool. Thank you very much. I like this. American YouTuber who does various things to his iPods and MP3 players. Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm in. All right,
Okay.
subscribed. On that note, though, about the YouTube ad, so I feel awful because I'm not really supporting my creators. But what I do is I have a shortcut to the YouTube desktop screen on my iPhone's home screen, and I've got like the content blockers so that when I open it up, the ads don't play.
Hmm.
I'm so sorry. I
Okay.
will eventually pay for the YouTube
Hmm.
Premium. I'm just not there yet. My
Yeah.
problem is, and I'll bring this back, I promise. But my problem is that my Gmail account, I think, is set up as a US account, so I could do US specific things. But
Hmm.
it makes billing quite difficult if I ever want to pay for something. And
Right.
in particular, what I'm quite flummoxed about right now is that that account is US based, but I can't get Google Bard, and I really want to try Google Bard. And
Oh.
I'll tell you why. Have you ever heard of this talk, Kubernetes the hard way?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see the pun coming? No, I'll spell it up here. I want to do Kubernetes
Kubernetes
the
the
Bard
Bard
way.
way. Okay.
Yes. Shit, patent pending. But I really would like to see, like, hey, if we're going to set up a new cluster and I'm
Right.
using like an AI assistant, again, I think I've said this before, but if I'm
Right.
using this as like an intern that's helping me out, what could they give me that I could then modify to make things work? And if I was going to go through like a Kelsey Hightower kind of thing,
Right.
using Bard on, let's just say, plain VMs and GCP to make it easy,
Hmm.
what could Bard give me? Because I've been
Right.
really, really impressed with AI tools like Canva and
Right.
Notion and
Yeah.
ChatGPT 4 from OpenAI will really give
Right.
me like varying degrees of like success in just generating boilerplate stuff that I can go in and edit.
Right.
Really do feel like it's not gonna, it won't do it. I can kind of say foregone conclusion. It's not going to be good enough for what I need,
Right.
but I feel like it might be close enough to give me like uh, the strategy basically to
Right.
start doing it. So if you get
Yeah.
access to Bard, let me know. I
Yeah.
don't know. Let's try to.
I have not. I keep seeing like other people talking about it, and every review I see basically says how far behind it is compared to ChatGPT.
Oh no.
But
Okay.
but then all the Google people say, "Oh, it's so much better." Yeah, but yeah, okay, sure. um, and um, like there was a recently the somebody who's been working on this a long time has left. I think he left Google, and he
Right.
had an interview where he was talking about, what do you think of some of the other tools that are out in the market? He says, "Oh, I'm not impressed," but at Google we did really amazing things. But okay, well, I guess they're not releasing those things, but I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. It seems like
Yeah,
they're
I've been impressed with like using ChatGPT to come up with that first version of
right.
I need a manifest to run this application in this way, and or I've got this thing, this manifest or this application or this whatever. Here's the source code, and it's giving me this error. Help me troubleshoot. I mean, those types of
Right.
things it's great for. I mean, it's amazing how it will create a script, a shell script for me, or create something else for me. And it's never right the first time. You need to like go back and
Yes.
forth. But but just like, I mean,
Just like an intern, right? And again, I've
or
worked with a
just
lot of
like,
amazing
I
interns.
mean,
I apologize, but honestly, they'll give you
or
work that
using Stack
maybe you didn't
Overflow.
describe it. Yeah, exactly.
Using Stack Overflow, you find 100 answers, 99 of them are wrong, and it's up to you to
Yes,
figure out which one is the good one, and you
yes,
have to verify. And so I would say ChatGPT is better than that. You have a better chances of getting the right answer using ChatGPT versus Stack Overflow, but you still have to put in some work.
yeah. Now, listen, I'm not the smartest engineer when it comes to like doing the things, but in the office, I used to have engineers ask me questions, and I give
Mhm.
them answers that would work. But and this is maybe like depending on the office that you're working at, where you are. I found as a senior engineer, I'd often ask around and like no one give me the right answer, and I go to Stack Overflow and I couldn't find an answer. And the reason is because you're in some niche with some
Yeah.
weird combination of stuff that just people haven't done before, and you gotta
Yeah.
gotta pound your head through the wall. I will say though, sometimes those wrong answers can lead me to ask different questions
Sure.
and
Sure.
approach a problem a little bit different, kind of like that rubber duck method. And I do feel like ChatGPT can be like a pretty good sounding board, or like
Mhm.
a rubber ducky kind of method, or that intern where you didn't describe the problem properly, ergo
Right.
what they gave you was slightly different than what you wanted. But if you want to get them to do what I've really found awesome is like, make me a Terraform script for a Kubernetes cluster in
Mhm.
GCP. Now make one for AWS. Now we make one from Azure. And again, like these are pretty, like they're in the docs, so it's not too hard to do, but
Mhm.
it would take me longer to go through the docs and find them
Yeah.
than it would ask it a question. And I'll
Right.
pay the fractional pennies to get the answer from ChatGPT just so I can get those boilerplates to put in some
Right.
documentation. Like it's actually pretty quick. And I
Yeah.
do like, you can use squiggly brackets in some of the apps and actually have it like expand, which is actually
Mhm.
really, really handy.
Yeah. Yeah. The
Yeah, I'm
the
seeing
person
this.
who's joining us is saying it's not that use. Yeah. I mean, I guess everybody has a different experience with it, and I
Right.
can't. It's
I think for
it's
us,
like
like
I feel
spreading
like
boiler is, it's a pretty acceptable use. I
yeah.
think.
I mean, I feel like it's similar to it reminds me of GPS in the car. If
Early days
you
versus now.
Well, so I remember my sister got some Garmin device for
Mhm.
GPS in her car, and I remember we were driving along, and the instructions that this GPS thing said was turn right at the next light, and you could see like it was like a five-way intersection, and the image on the screen was obviously not the first right but really the second right that you're going
Right.
along. But she was just listening to the message, and it's like, oh well, I trust, and therefore I'm not going to verify, I'm not going to validate that what it's saying is the real thing.
Right.
I hear something, I'm going to turn, and then we were going the wrong way for a while. And you just have to keep, I mean, just like with any Stack Overflow or anything, got to verify the information
Trust
you're
but
in.
verify. Yeah.
Or I mean, if you ask me a question, I tell you the answer, you better verify that, because I might be wrong, or I heard you wrong, or
I think a lot of us will say, I think the answer is like, as
yeah,
you get advanced in your years, or maybe a little bit more experienced, or a
yeah,
combination of two. We'll say like it depends. This
yeah.
could work this way. I've been using something called Tome. Have you heard of Tome before? Which will spit out
No.
slide decks. It's very generic, and it's pretty good at like marketing or pitch
Hmm.
decks. It's pretty
Hmm.
bad at like a DevRel or DevOps kind of thing,
Yeah.
unfortunately. But you can prompt it and say like that, but more precise, or like
Right.
great, but drop all of the adjectives because we
Right.
don't need
Right.
all these adjectives have to go. So you need to know, like in terms of writing, you need to know what your audience is and how you would address a different audience with a different style of writing. And if you don't know that,
Right.
then you're probably already bad at your job,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And then getting someone else to help you with this, you're going to get the wrong results because you don't understand the goal, or the incentive. Like,
Hmm.
why is someone listening to you? Why would someone
Hmm.
come to this talk? That kind of thing. And a lot of the times it is some of that tone, maybe, or if you're talking
Hmm.
like, give me a Python app, like actually, I'd really rather you make this in Python 2 instead of 3
Right.
because you're dealing with a legacy system for some reason, or something like that. Or I need you to use this library because I know,
Hmm.
the whole bill of materials upstream
Right.
is trustworthy, whereas maybe I don't want to use this other library. Or maybe you're in
Right.
Node.js and you've decided that you want to use a specific framework as opposed to something generic because you have opinions and you want to go into this. But that requires some experience. And I feel like that there's a lot of people like making games now in ChatGPT that are
Hmm.
fully functional and things like that. And that's great, don't get me wrong. But it seems to me that it would take still a little bit less time if you knew what you were doing
Right.
going in and knew what questions to ask. It is incredible, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but my understanding is that you need some experience to drive it still.
Yeah.
I totally agree.
So I saw some news today,
Uh-oh.
which I was, I think, pretty excited about. I don't
Okay.
know if you care about Final Cut Pro. Do you care about Final Cut Pro?
Little bit. I still haven't purchased it. I probably should. I own Motion, if that helps you. So
Okay.
like I'm in the ecosystem, just not there yet.
And Logic?
I do own Logic as well. Yep.
Okay. So Final Cut Pro and Logic show up on the iPad on May 23rd.
That is pretty cool. See, that's worth it. Price
It's
tag. Honestly, it's not even that expensive, right? Like it makes it worth the price tag right there.
so it's this is going to have a subscription model,
Oh,
and it's $5 a month or $50 a year, which is still incredibly cheap.
that is very cheap.
Yeah. So some people are like, "Oh, this is terrible," but I mean that's so if you keep using it for
$50 a
6
year?
years, then you're going to
Way cheaper than
be
Adobe. Adobe's $50
Yeah.
a month.
Yeah. So I think it looks. I mean, and some of the features, like some of the features that I wish were in the full Final Cut Pro, but you could get using tools like Runway or others, but where like pulling content off like if you have a video of somebody running along, being able to pull just them, so like creating a green screen, but not, or rotoscoping, but not. So automatically, just like the features that are on the iPhone today, where you can just like hold
Right.
on a person and they kind of pop off of the background, and then replacing the background with another background that's in Final Cut. It looks really cool. I'm looking for.
If you can
I'm
bring
looking-
some of those editing tools from
Yeah.
mobile into Final Cut, like that's
Oh, yeah.
I use CapCut a lot, but just something to ripple
Yeah.
edit, like delete
Yeah.
this spot and stick it together. That's a major
Yeah.
deal. And I think Final Cut, there's a setting to do it for it, but like if it follows these mobile editors, because a lot of them snapshots and other ones, but like these ones that are very easy to use, I think that'd be
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing it, but then again, the downside to both of these tools is that I have to get a new iPad because it requires it only works with newer devices, relatively newer devices. I mean,
like
it's a few
M1
generations back,
devices?
but
Okay.
I mean, I have an iPad Pro that is older than what they will support. So like, I gotta get a new iPad.
I probably have one that support it, but the battery's dead in it. I found at this point.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm it looks exciting, but it will be a very expensive upgrade for me.
Fair enough. So it's not just the $50 a month; it's buying the device that can still run it,
right?
As it continues to improve, and the newer versions will require newer iPads. I hear you.
Yeah. So, but it looks very cool, and the video of it. I mean, there's only one video about it on the Final Cut page, but it looks pretty awesome.
I've been having a lot of luck with Descript. I'm not sure if you've played with Descript a lot, but just recording myself and being able to edit text instead of the video. I feel like that kind of feature, I believe they talked about possibly having it in one of the other video editors. Is it Resolve possibly? Resolve's starting to get some of these AI features kind of added in.
Yeah, I think Resolve and Premiere, as of pretty recently, have that kind of feature in it. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I have the full version of, or the whatever of Descript, just because it's if you're a Y Combinator company, you get it for free for like a year or two. And so I have it through that because Infra is, and but I haven't. I played around with it a whole bunch the first month we got it, and I think it's going to expire in a month, and I haven't touched it since.
Are you one of those multi-take people who will just do unlimited takes and stitch it together, or are you a single take person? Because I prefer to do single take, multiple long single takes.
I depends. So I will for recording, like if I'm talking to the camera like this, I've written out the whole script, and I'm reading the script from a teleprompter. Always use a teleprompter, And if I make a mistake, I notice it and I go back to the most recent sentence
Oh, gotcha.
beginning
Gotcha.
and
So
re-record
you keep
there.
rolling, but you
Yeah,
rewind kind of
yeah.
the
And so
teleprompter and then go.
for 10 minutes of speaking, I'll have a 25-minute video, but
That's not too
with
bad.
several redos along the
I need
way.
to use my teleprompter. It's so cumbersome and it's very long, and I just don't have a lot of depth where I am right now, so it's very hard to
Mhm.
fit into my workflow. But I should.
So what do you use for a teleprompter?
I use the notes in Google Slides, and I make sure to cut
Okay.
them up so that they're small enough that they're high enough in the screen. Like I'm looking at the screen right now, not the camera, which is right
Oh,
there.
okay.
But I have them like really high up in the screen, and then I have the actual
So you don't
slides
have a
on that.
teleprompter.
I do. I just don't use it. It's not set up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
It's
so
it's like
for
it's
that.
like it's like really deep. It's like
Oh,
this
okay.
deep with the camera and everything together and the
Yeah.
iPad all set up. It's quite like it's a very deep thing. I just don't have
Yeah.
that room where I am. I need to move like the whole desk and
Mm.
everything out to accommodate it.
Yeah. My desk in my office area is, and we're going to expand that pretty soon, but is about a foot. The desk is about a foot from the wall, so
Okay,
that I can
it's about
fit
the
a
same.
tripod, a full tripod
Yep.
behind it, and then the teleprompter, which is I think it's called One Take Only. It's this
Okay.
teleprompter I bought 10 years ago, and it was meant for the 9-inch, I think, iPad. Um, uh, but the 10-inch doesn't really fit in it. And so you have to take the little tray out, and now it's got this base that will fit lots of things. And so I have a Lilliput, I don't know how big it is, maybe 10-inch display, which is just an HDMI display hooked up to a computer. And that way I have whatever's on my Mac, I can move it up to that screen, and the
Right.
Lilliput screen will reverse it. And so it becomes so it works with a teleprompter,
Very
with
cool.
the mirror. And that works really great.
Yeah, I like these comments. Yeah, so it does look like I'm in a covered apartment. I am. Listen, this isn't a large place or anything like that. I'm using the wide angle to make it look bigger, but it is pretty small here for
Yeah.
sure. And Matt's definitely in Martha's Vineyard for this week.
Yeah. No. I mean, it is. I think we have uh, 0.4 acres is the total
That's a lot.
size of our place.
That's a lot.
0.4 or 0.5.
So you can afford to have 2 feet behind your desk, as
I can
opposed to
afford to
one.
have, yeah, a foot behind my, and actually the office is in the garage.
There you go.
But we are going to expand it a bit. Right now it's a 13-foot by 6-foot room, and we're going to push one wall back by about 3 feet, so it'll be a 13 by 9-foot room, which will
Wow.
be amazing.
Yeah.
And the ceiling is about I'm 6'4", so the ceiling is about like 7.
Okay, so pretty
And
close
we're
to your head.
gonna
Yeah.
and it's basically a room inside the garage. And so the garage at that point where the office is actually the lowest point of the garage. It's about 13 feet, 14
Oh, that's
feet.
pretty good though.
And so we're going to get rid of the ceiling, and it go all the way up. And then I'll hang sound panels down from there.
Oh yeah, you can get a real light, like a real parabolic light in there. Oh,
Yeah,
I love high
it could
ceilings.
be interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good
So
idea. I'm trying to think, well, what should I do for like sound, dealing with the sound? And if it's just a big light with a big cloth in front of it, I mean, that's
yep,
kind of taking the sound. It could be I don't know,
it'll
interesting
dampen the
way of
sound for
dealing with it.
sure. Yeah, because it's just like
Yeah,
a big like a baffle kind of thing. So yeah,
yeah,
it'll take the sound and won't bounce back. They're a little bit loose most of the time too.
yeah,
They tend to be like a meter, 1.2 meters generally is kind of the big ones. But you
yeah,
need about 11 feet to hang them. I know this because I've got one. It's like the light I like the most. However, finding a studio to put that in is quite
yeah.
difficult. They tend to be a little bit more expensive when they're higher ceilings. But They're
Yeah.
really nice, and it's just an umbrella. You can get them from like Westcott's also, and like all types of different umbrellas will do it.
Hmm.
And you shine the light into it, and it comes through the baffle at you. But it's
Okay.
like enveloping light. So there's no
Yeah.
you lose all your wrinkles. You look younger. It's everybody loves it. It's fantastic.
I mean, now all the lights coming down from above. I mean, you're kind of
On an angle, yeah. You would do like
okay.
pretend it's a window light, so it comes kind of like 30
Okay.
degrees kind of thing. Yeah.
So it's not something that would take you would have, like filling 9 feet across.
No, you got it. It would be generally about 4 or 5 feet
Okay.
from your
Okay.
face,
Yeah.
but it would cover like your entire torso, no problem, as well
Sure.
as standing if you need to do that.
Yeah. And I guess I have the light dome, the aperture light dome. So that's a big, but I can't fit it into the room right now because it's so huge. But
Right.
if we expand that out, I will be able to do that.
Drifter Thrifter's telling us that they have 37 acres and a mountain, which is not bad.
Yeah. But though there is a smiley and a wink, so maybe he doesn't.
We don't know.
They.
The photo looks like a him.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a sizable plot of
Though
land.
he's
I grew up
heading
on
down
100
to
acres.
squish
And I know
he's going
Yeah,
to squish his daughters.
don't do that. I'd be nice
I don't
to
know
your
what that
daughters.
mean.
They'll
I'm a
grow
little
up to
worried.
be stronger than you are at some point in time. So listen, in terms of stuff I've checked out this week, I will admit to paying for Notion finally. I've been very happy with the AI features in Notion. You can tell that I'm on a
Okay.
bit of a kick here. It's quite good at expanding things that I've already written in Notion. I think because you can refer to the page itself by saying like, hey, based on the block above, give me a bullet list or something like that. It's actually awesome. And like, what are some other trends based on what I've written? So I gave it like 4 workshops that I was working on. I said, hey, like, what's another workshop? And suggested one on like streaming architecture. And I was like, you don't know what you're talking about. Tell me about streaming architecture. And it made some like block diagrams. And I was like, this isn't bad. Like there's NiFi and Flink in there, and like some Kafka and stuff like that. And I asked it to make some different cloud architectures, and it's like not too bad. The main thing I liked about it though is it seems to get around I think they're called tokenization, but the token limit that you might have in ChatGPT using the API, whereas it will truncate code that you get back, which is kind of useless, especially like when it's a main method or something like that. You've gotten all through the preamble, you're at the main method, and you can't convince it to just give you that method. I've noticed, at least for now, Notion will just keep spitting out stuff. And I spent 3 hours the other day, but I ended up with 73 pages worth of stuff that all needs work. And I ended up creating like 3 workshop ideas. I'm not going to use them. I just want to see like what this process looked like. But I was really surprised with the amount of data you can get back from Notion. And it convinced me to sign up. It's another one of these monthly things. It's not too bad.
Right.
But I'm blown away. The question that we've got, at least at work, is like if you're dealing with a tool like this that isn't using OpenAPI and it's not using the API key that we've trusted, how do we know where the data from the prompts that you're giving it are going? Or like are these being sold in aggregate? What's happening to that data?
Yeah.
So I'm very careful to say like using the Datadog APIs, how would I talk to Datadog to create a synthetic thing? That kind of stuff, like making sure that it's like open stuff. But it is still a concern. I think in terms of just approving a piece of software that's like a SaaS is a little bit more difficult when we're talking about AI, because they're probably maybe likely collecting data in order to improve the model, which is the whole point. So it does add like a little wrinkle in there in terms of like is it Cooper or whatever that approval process is in the US to get a piece of software like put into your system.
There's also who owns the information that you've gotten out of it. And I know there's concern like with Midjourney or with ChatGPT, who owns the content. I mean, with Midjourney, if you're generating an image and you're doing it through the free
like the Discord
free Discord thing open, then Midjourney owns the image. You don't own the image, and if you use it, that you are using it against. You're not allowed to use it in any way unless it's you. I think unless you state that it's owned by Midjourney or something like that.
I think it's attribution.
If you pay the $20 or whatever a month, which I think I'm still paying and I should stop because I'm not really using it. Then you can use those images and they belong to you, and no
Interesting.
longer to Midjourney. And the same thing with ChatGPT. If you're paying for it, then you are the owner of whatever it produces.
Gotcha.
Um,
And I think then the only question is the prompt could be something that's used. And my understanding
yeah.
is if you're using the API as opposed to the chat interface, it
Mm,
won't be an aggregate. You can opt out as well, I think, now in the interface,
mhm.
but you have to set it as default. That's
Yeah.
some of the concern there. But like if you're asking it, for example, at Infra, come up with a new product line that we could use that would
Right.
compete against X, that kind of thing. Those
Yeah.
those are very specific kind of strategic questions that I'm
Yeah.
careful not to ask because
Yeah.
those are they kind of like announce a strategy that if
Right.
somebody was able to see scrape later, that could tell you maybe what they're thinking of. I've been able to role play like other companies and things like
Yeah.
that, but still it feels disingenuous because then is this like a false flag kind of thing? Like,
Right.
are you poisoning the data that's going in there? I think that's my main concern about the data being shared around.
And,
I'm sure there are other security concerns as
yeah.
well.
And then where does the data, when you ask a question, where does that question stay on your machine, or does it go somewhere else, and who has
Right.
control of it? I remember that was
Data
one of the
sovereignty, right?
first interactions I had with the security team at Datadog was around a plugin that so many people were using inside the company until until security said, you must remove this, and if you use it, it is grounds for firing. And that
Right.
was Grammarly.
I was going to say, is it Grammarly?
Yeah.
Because that's
Yeah.
one of those tools. It's a little bit AI based, but it's based on like
Yeah.
probably an expert system, right, for grammar.
Yeah.
And now I think it's AI based, but like that is something that's looking at it's like a keystroke logger.
Yeah.
Where the keystrokes go. Like if it's running in the actual keyboard software on your iPhone and you type in
Right.
a password, what happens to that password?
Yeah.
I can totally understand the concern. And listen, I'm not trying to get fired, obviously.
Yeah.
So the question is then, like, as you're evaluating different tools, where is the data going? What are you feeding into
Right.
it? What are the concerns that you need to look at? I think is what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to be mature about this, but at
Yeah.
the same time, definitely don't want to leak anything. So like, what is
Right.
the tack to take?
Yeah. And I think, if my role at Infra was to actually build the product, I would be a lot more careful. I mean,
Right.
I'm careful, but I wouldn't, I can use a lot of the tools as long as I'm just talking about public information and asking it about public things, and generally how do SSH keys work, or what are
Right.
some interesting ways to use SSH
Right.
keys. That those are the types of questions I give it, and not anything that is secret to what we do or anything about product direction. And since I'm not writing the product, I'm just using it as an evangelist. I'm just using
Right.
it so I can tell other
As a
people
test
about it.
user or what have you. Yeah.
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 I have a little bit more, I guess, leeway in how I use these types of tools. But if I were some of the developers who are actually working on it, I would be less eager to use some of the tools.
So I don't want to nerd snipe you just as we're leaving, but have you asked the tool? Because I ask a lot of the new tools I ask, like, how would I get started with Google Cloud and Python kind of thing? Or like, what is like a getting started guide to Datadog for monitoring Azure, that kind of stuff? Like because I have opinions generally for like all three of the clouds and Datadog and probably Python and Bash and a few other things. I want to know, like, is it good? Is it bad? Most of the time I find that it's not enough. Like it's missing the je ne sais quoi. Like, like, can you wrap it in a story? Can you make the tone jovial? Can it be folksy? How do you get people interested? Because otherwise it's just regurgitating docs with different words. And that is not at all helpful. Anybody can do the docs.
Yeah. And I've asked it about getting started with a particular, something I forget what it was, some other technology, and it described, well, here's the list of things you should do to learn that new technology, and like two of the steps in the middle were okay, and then you should learn about this particular feature set of that product, except that feature set didn't exist.
Oh, that's amazing. It's like hallucinating.
It just makes stuff up, and I mean, it's not making it's guessing what the next word should be, and so it
Right.
guessed, and that just didn't make any sense. So again, trust, maybe don't even trust, but verify. Um, take it in and verify.
Yeah. I've also like fed it, give me a business plan for X.
Mm,
Like as a photographer, give me a business
yeah,
plan that would help me grow my market share or whatever. Just make something up.
right.
And it's like so many of the times it's like, and then you advertise using social media, and it's like, is there any other way you could advertise? It's very interesting in that it's definitely like regurgitated a lot of that kind of clickbaity
Yeah,
content that you'll find on the internet. Those easy answers, which are acceptable but not necessarily provably
right.
true. And because of that, a lot of the answers that I see are just like regurgitated top 10 lists of
Hmm.
what to do. And that's also like not really helpful. It's not necessarily great advice
Yeah,
either. But again, you need to know, you need to have read some of these articles. I guess in my case, I've written a few,
right,
but written the article to recognize clickbait, and then like read one to to know that it's using clickbait in
right.
general, and then like giving you the stuff, and then advertise on Instagram. So I don't know,
Mm,
maybe not. Anyway, sorry,
mm,
I'm definitely poking into this quite a bit, looking into this quite a bit.
mm. Yep. So cool. Well, for recommendations, I don't really have it. I'm actually talking on a different mic. So I
Okay,
mean, did it sound okay?
surprisingly, yeah, we're missing
Yeah.
your baritone. The midtones are maybe a little bit,
Okay. Okay.
but yeah,
So
we've.
this is so I've got this weird contraption on my because so I got a mic
Mhm,
that is nice and portable. That was
right.
like the first thing I wanted to get a mic that's portable. Um, and but then I realized about 10 minutes before I started this that I don't really have a way of I can mount it. I've got this table right here, but the
Mhm,
cable from the mic to my computer is short, and so it would have pulled off the
right.
counter. So so I've got this. Let me. Uh, so here's the mic. It is it's a
Is it a Rode NTG one?
Rode, um, not the NTG, but the video mic to
Ah,
go or mic
yep,
go to,
yep.
which is great. It's really good. And then I've got this tripod that
Oh,
like
it's
a
got like a
little
hook on it.
tripod, but it's got a hook on it, and
Yeah,
that's hooking onto the back of the monitor, and then I'm just kind of resting it on the monitor, which is good
you're blowing my
until I
mind.
want
That's
to
a really cool idea.
see the left side of the screen, and then I'm kind
Oh.
of looking around
Those
to see past.
trivial ideas. Like,
Yeah.
how do I find the start stream button? I was wondering why you were poking around like squinting. It's
So
covering portions of the screen. Okay.
yeah. Um,
I think
so
I saw that tripod on like what's his name, Potato Jazz channel. He was talking about that little
I
hook on the bottom being
yeah,
really
yeah,
handy to
and
hang
that
off like a
is
car door.
yeah, because this is first is the Joby whatever that you
Right.
wrap around
Gorilla
thing.
part. Yeah. Pod.
This is great because it's oh, and now I'm not talking at the mic.
That's
Um,
all right. We can
but
still kind of hear you.
it's got lots of different ways of configuring it, which is
Right.
great, and it's got inside here, right here is the little iPhone kind of holder,
Oh, that's pretty smart.
which just kind of fits inside and then fits on top over here, and then it's got you can also fit this thing or the head that comes with it into this little
Nice.
piece down here, and it's a really neat little tripod. But I feel like for this purpose, which I
Is
think
it the
is
PGY Tech? Is that the right one? I was just trying to find it. Oh,
let's see, it doesn't have a
sorry, we
name
get
on
you
it.
touching the mic now. This is like ASMR podcast.
Yeah, it is PGY Tech.
Okay, so
Yeah,
that's the one he was talking about. Okay,
yeah.
I'd never remember that.
Um, yeah,
Very
it's great. It's great. This is the tripod I carry around now, and then so I also have that. I think I recommended that disc, which was the MagSafe
yeah,
disc. So
right.
I'll load that up on here, and um, and so in fact, that was going to be my test for. That was my test I tried when I was at home. Will this mic work for a lot of different things? I could. I have this kind of cold shoe mount that I've slipped on here. I can mount that to basically the bottom of the tripod, and then mount the phone to the top on the head of the tripod, and that way I've got everything all in one, which is great.
Yeah. I have
Just
to say, like people listening may find the handling noise loud. Let me assure you, folks listening to this audio only, this is actually incredible because most mics, when you're moving around like that, it's very very annoying. It kind of booms, like there's very
yeah,
loud sounds, and it is
yeah,
extremely distracting. It feels like it's got like a compression built in, where it's actually
mhm.
those big pumps. I'm not hearing it, which is actually awesome.
Okay,
Because
well,
normally in a mic like that, like the capsule is a little bit isolated, but not that much. You would hear
right,
like a lot of really big thumping just as you're moving it around. But actually,
right,
I tell you to stop, but it's not that annoying. It's
yeah,
actually okay.
okay,
Surprisingly, maybe it's the platform that we're using, but honestly,
yeah,
it's surprisingly good for handling. I'd say
yeah,
it's a pro for sure.
yeah, yeah. The mic itself is great. I think I need to look online for is there uh, a mic mount that will hook to the top of a monitor, and I'm sure
Gotcha.
there is. I just need to look for that, and
Yeah, and I think for that
that
one
would
you
be
can get
nice.
like a rubber shock mount as well that I've seen.
Yeah, yeah. So it comes with one, but it's not something. It that makes the whole thing
This
hard
is much
to
bigger.
hack.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so actually now everything for the mic I carry in this bag. It's
Oh, that's
a
not bad.
Maxpedition bag, and inside I have the the little that thing, as well as all the cables for it. I kind of push in here, and then that's my audio setup.
These are cool bags. I've never heard of an expedition before. Wow.
So if you
It's
start
like
looking
tactical
at,
gear. I like tactical
yeah,
looking stuff.
if you start looking at any sort of EDC kind of, everyday carry type of stuff,
Right.
this is often the brand that comes up a lot.
This is the mini pocket organizer, perhaps.
This is the, yeah, I don't know which one, this mini or micro or,
It looks like the mini.
yeah,
Yeah, just
it's
with the
about
loop on the
4 inches
top.
by about 6 inches.
Well, in Canada, we only use millimeters. Sorry, we can't afford fruity
Okay,
units. But it says
so
it's
in
19
millimeters
by
that's
165 by
so
114.
yeah, in millimeters that's 4 inches by 6 inches.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
As of a photo, right? Is what we're getting at. Oh yeah, it
yes,
does say in
yes,
fact it's
yeah,
four
4 by 6
inches
photo.
by
Yeah,
yeah. In the
yeah.
actual description, it says it as opposed to the manufacturer's description as opposed to the Amazon one.
So I will give you one more recommendation that I
All right.
of a tool that I got recently, which is actually came in really useful yesterday as we were attaching a mount to a new TV that we got in the office, and that
Okay.
is this guy.
What is that?
It's a screwdriver.
Okay. I've used those
So
before.
on it at the moment is a Phillips head, and so
Right.
you stick this in there, and now you've got this Phillips head screwdriver.
Okay.
But
For
also,
those
if you
listening,
need,
Matt's showing us like what looks like a pencil.
and then also now I've got a screwdriver that's got a little bit more,
Ah, I
uh,
like that. Leverage, yeah.
but
Yeah.
leverage, and then also that way. So now I've got a lot more leverage.
Very cool.
And then the heads are this flat design,
Right. Yeah, I see
um,
that. That's really
and
smart. So they take up less
and
space.
so they all
It's like this.
right
It's like the
now.
size of a drafting pencil, right? Like those flat pencils. It
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
looks about
This
that
is
size.
again millimeters. This is 3 inches.
Yeah.
But on it, yeah. So this side is a Phillips. What is it? Phillips number one,
Oh,
and
that's
on the
pretty
other
handy.
side,
I mean, that's what you're
Phillips
going to use
number
all the time.
three.
Yeah.
And then you can see inside here are two other heads and
Perfect.
two others here.
Oh,
And so
nice.
I can, if I want to swap out to a, which one's this? This is a hex,
Okay,
5mm and 4mm.
okay.
They're flat, but they are the full, bit. So
Yeah, that's very
that's
cool.
really cool. It's from a company called, I think it's called Big Idea Design. And this is the, I don't know, their bigger one of these. It's their newer model of it. It's not cheap.
Oh, it's the EDS, the everyday screwdriver.
Yeah, I think so. It's not cheap because this is a screwdriver that costs, I don't know, I think like $120.
That's not too bad, but yeah, you could probably get a motorized one of them.
You can get a cheaper screwdriver, but this is small enough that I put it in my bag. It's titanium.
The Bit Bar Inline Max, we found it.
Yes,
Pretty good
that's the
shopping.
one.
It's
And
titanium? No wonder it's so expensive.
yeah, that's why it's so expensive. It's titanium.
Titanium alloy, but still, yeah, it's very cool.
So yeah, it's a little heavier than I expected,
Right?
but
Yeah, titanium.
It's great. It's great. And I haven't had problems with, I brought this to Amsterdam in carry-on and no problems with, as well as, bringing it here.
That's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah.
In Europe, they can be a bit finicky about odd objects.
Yeah. So that's a pretty cool tool, and it actually works as I have other screwdrivers where the bits weren't strong and they like just broke. So I'm glad to see that we've used this in a few things and they've held up well.
Titanium bits will do that. Yeah. Destroy the screws that you're working on.
Yeah.
That is awesome. This looks really cool. I will check this out. Thank you.
That's my tip. I love it.
I like it. All right, sir. Shall we find the button?
I think we should find the button.
Even below your mic mount?
Well, I actually